Hello, Detroit, and anyone else around the country and around the world interested in sports in the Motor City. You're listening to the debut episode of the Motor City Sports Podcast, and I am your host, Lee Moserak. We're here today to talk about Detroit sports, and we're going to do that in a positive way. This is your number one source for positive takes on Detroit sports. That doesn't mean we're going to be fake and we're going to make things up about what's going on in Detroit. It means that we're going to be realistic, but we're not going to be crab apples. I want to keep sports positive, especially now in Detroit. What do we have to complain about? Look at our Tigers, best team in baseball. We'll talk more about Tigers coming up at our big three strikes. Detroit Pistons coming off that great playoff run. The Detroit Lions is pretty much everyone's favorite team in the country, right? Everyone wants to watch the Lions games. The ratings are always through the roof. I made the decision to finally start this podcast because of that, the positive aspect that I want to work on. But I've always kind of enjoyed the idea of a sports podcast and a podcast in general and getting my voice out there. But, who am I? I'm not a professional. I don't have a journalism degree. I didn't play professional sports. So who cares what I have to say, right? But I finally had a moment. Two things happened this year watching the Tigers. So Kaylina, my wife, and I, we go to a lot of games. So there was a game. I cannot remember what game it was. I should have really wrote this down specifically before we started recording today. But there was a game a few weeks, maybe a couple months back now. We were down at the game. Tigers won. Whenever they win, I like to listen to local radio on the way home. It's about a 15-minute drive home. I like to just soak in that win. I enjoy the win. I want to live with it a little bit. So I listen, if Dan Dickerson has something to say still about it, if they're in the studio breaking down the game, they're doing interviews in the locker room, whatever, I want to hear that. I enjoy that. So listen on the way home, park the car in the garage, go inside. The next day I had to pull my car out of the garage, but I didn't go anywhere. So the radio was still on the same station. I walked to work that day, went about my life. That night I went and got the car, went to pull it back in the garage. Unfortunately, that day the Tigers lost. I can't remember exactly the situation, but I remember they did lose that game. And so I had a 20-second move of the car into the garage. And the radio was still on the station from the night before. Local sports talk here in Detroit. And those of you from the area know what I'm talking about. And they were freaking out. They were rattling off the three guys that didn't get a hit that day. Talking about this is unacceptable. This is inexcusable. If this is going to be a real team, this cannot happen. These guys cannot go 0 for 4. They're responsible for this loss. They're going to have to wear that. I thought, what are we doing here? What are we talking about? This season is 162 games long. Why are we freaking out about one loss? And I'll talk more about that when I talk about my Tigers in the three big strikes. But that moment happened, and I thought, this cannot be the way. This cannot be the only way to talk about sports, that we freak out at every loss. We downplay every win. That's not very fun. The other thing that happened recently is I was at the game against the Red Sox when Javi hit those 2 home runs, including the walk-off in extra innings. And I remember the joy that I felt. That home run came. He comes up to the plate, and you're thinking, oh, my God, can he really do this? Can he really hit a second home run? Can he really win this game in extra innings? And that game was funny, too, because Kaylina and I had moved from our seats out to the statues there, standing room only, and there was a Red Sox fan down in front of us talking so much trash to everyone around them because the Red Sox had gone up in the top of that inning. And the Tigers fans were kind of quiet, right? And then Javi hits that home run. And looking at the joy basically leave his body and come right into my body was amazing. I'm jumping up and down, high-fiving Kaylina. We're taking videos. We're taking pictures. And it was just a silly little game. Was it April? Maybe it was May. It was the Red Sox game. So it was early. It wasn't a playoff game, but it's so much joy. And I thought, this is the joy that I want to grab. This is the joy that I want to hold on to. And I want to put into a podcast. I want to put onto Instagram, put out to YouTube, whatever. Because that's the joy we should have. If we're watching sports, we should enjoy it. And so I finally, a couple weeks ago, said, you know what? Enough's enough. I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm going to start. I'm going to do it. And there's a guy I follow, Chris Van Vliet. He did an interview one time where he said, if you're thinking about starting anything that you want to do, just start. Don't worry about all the details. Just start. So that's what we're doing. We're here in my office. I got 2 of my Sports Illustrators with Tram, with Verlander on them. We're going to fill this out eventually. We're going to have posters. We're going to have stuff in the background. I got my Tigers jersey. I got my Tigers hat. We're going to fill it up with Bad Boys era stuff, with Hockey Town stuff, with Lions stuff. But I didn't want to wait any longer. I wanted to start. So this is the debut episode of the Motor City Sports Podcast. And the format's going to go a little bit like this. We're going to have kind of our big 3 strikes. big three things to talk about every week. Baseball is my favorite sport, so after 3 strikes, 3 outs, we'll have 3 big topics every week, and then we're going to end it with the MoTown Lowdown. And that's going to be kind of my one big thought of the week. Maybe it's a current event. Maybe it's something that's kind of been set in the background. Maybe it's an interview. But that's kind of the format we're going to go through here. So I want to thank everyone for being on the first episode of the Motor City Sports Podcast. We're just getting started. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of this, we'll start with strike one. All right, welcome back, everyone. Motor City Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Mosierak, and we're here to talk about Detroit sports, and we're here to keep it as positive as we can about Detroit sports. That's why this is a great time to start a podcast, right? If I was starting this podcast in 2018, maybe you guys would have a comeback for me about me trying to keep everything positive. But right now, there's no excuse. We've got great things going on in Detroit sports, and I'm so excited to talk about it, so excited to engage with all of you about our Detroit sports. So we're going to start with the Detroit Tigers. That's strike one today. So I need to warn you that I'm recording this on Sunday. So these podcasts are going to drop every Monday and Thursday starting in July. So this episode is dropping on Thursday, July 3rd. Happy 4th of July, everyone, one day early. But I'm recording it on Sunday because it is my first podcast. It's going to take a little bit of time to edit, so I don't want to push it to the end and then miss my deadline. So we're recording this on Sunday afternoon before Sunday Night Baseball, before the big game, Tigers against the Twins tonight on ESPN. Tarik Skubal in front of all of America to show everyone how real the Tigers are. And we're talking about the Tigers right now because while they are 52 and 32, right? 52 and 32. They're 20 games above 500. They're tied for the best record in all of baseball. 2.5 games up on the Astros for best record in the American League. 10.5 games up on Cleveland for best record in the American League Central. And yet, no one takes them seriously. That's how I feel anyway. Nationally and locally, I feel like they're not taken seriously. Nationally, it's kind of like this, oh, they're this cute little story, this little engine that could. And it's fun right now, but it's not real. And then locally, I think there's a lot of people that are kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, that they don't think this team's real. And that really bums me out. I was at a game just Friday night, and while they did lose, and that was not great, but you're going to lose a game. And I'll keep talking about that here as we move on. But the guy that I was sitting next to was just so negative, so angry, just stomping his foot and scoffing, and someone strikes out. Oh my God, what are you doing? What are you thinking? He wasn't trying to strike out. What are we doing? Why are we? No one's going to bat 1,000. No one's going to go the year with 0 strikeouts. Stuff's going to happen. It's a bigger picture game. First, I'll talk about the national way that I think that we're not taking serious, and then I'll pivot more to locally. So nationally, a couple weeks ago, actually it was last weekend, the Tigers had that weird Thursday doubleheader, right, against the Pirates. They won the first game, short little break. Second game, they get that rain delay in the 9th inning. All the chaos happens in the bullpen. Tommy Pham stuff happens. Fans getting ejected. Tigers are trying to make a last-minute comeback, and they end up losing the game. And so they have to travel all night down to Tampa. They get in real late to Tampa, get there. There's rain with that game. That game's got a delay. Crazy stuff happens. They lose that game. Then they lose the Saturday game, too. So they've lost 3 games in a row. Kayleen and I are at a bar watching a band. We're sitting at the bar getting some food and a drink. They got a TV up there that's, showing whatever was going on that night. On the bottom line comes across the Tigers score against the Rays. It has the Tigers record and says, lost 3 games in a row, or 3rd loss in a row. Kaylina sees it as, what are they saying that for? Why are they hating on Detroit? No one likes Detroit. Everyone's complaining about it. Everyone wants to dog Detroit, basically. Why are they pointing out the 3 losses? Do they point out whenever anyone else loses 3 games? Why has it got to be the Tigers? And I kind of laughed. I thought she was getting a little fired up. Thought maybe she was overreacting. I had to tell her the reason that I think they're pointing that out is because it's rare for the Tigers to lose 3 games, right? They're usually win a game. They win a couple of games. They lose 1. They win a couple more. They lose 1. No, they're 20 games above 500. It's not often we're going to lose 3 games in a row. So it was worth pointing out, they probably felt. But I have to admit, I kind of agree with her. Sometimes I think that maybe the national media is waiting for the opportunity to point something out about the Tigers because it doesn't seem real. Yeah, they know Tarik Skubal, but who else do they know? That's kind of what they're thinking. Maybe they're starting to know Riley Green. But I feel like they're just kind of waiting for an excuse to say that we're not real and that it's going to stop any minute now. But that's not the truth anymore. This is a real team. So yeah, we've always kind of known Tarik Skubal, And Riley Green was an all-star last year, like I said, and we had Gleyber Torres and Javi Baez. When I say all that, you go, oh, wait a minute, all-star voting, right? So as I'm recording this again, tomorrow starts phase 2, and by the time this airs, phase 2 is going to be over, so we'll know who makes the all-star. But I'm hoping by the time you all see this that we're going to have 3 starters. Gleyber Torres should be a lock at second base. I can't imagine he falls out of that. Riley Green's looking great in the outfield. And then Javi Baez with a chance to make history, being the first person to start an all-star game at second base, shortstop, and the outfield. And it's such a bonkers situation, right? He's not even playing the outfield anymore, but he did so good in the outfield when we needed him. When Parker was hurt, and Vierling was hurt, and we had really no one to put out there. He did such a phenomenal job that he's getting all-star recognition for it. So we've got that going on. So I think that's getting the national media. They can't ignore it anymore. It's obvious. Tarik Skubal is going to be announced as the starter for the game. He better be anyway. There's no excuse not to, unless something happens where he throws the game before it and for the Tigers, so we can't pitch in the All-Star game. But he should be the starter, and we have a good chance of having 3 players in the field behind him starting that game. So if that happens, it's going to get harder and harder for the national media to act like we're not a real team, act like the Tigers aren't for real, because they are for real. We're sitting here 20 games above 500, best team in the American League. People aren't taking it seriously. And so that is driving me nuts a little bit. Now we'll talk about the local feel. So that's kind of how I feel nationally. Locally, how do I feel? Well, I talked a little bit about that earlier, that locally, we're always just looking for something to complain about. I told that story about how I drove home from the game after a win. The next day, Tigers lost the game. Unfortunately, you're going to lose the game. You can't win 162 games. That's actually why I love watching baseball so much, because I know that we can lose a game here or there. That's not the end of the world. That when you're watching a football game, man, every game counts. Every game's so important. You lose a couple of games, you start to panic. Oh no, what's going to happen? Basketball is even stressful. Pistons get down by a couple points late, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, we can't lose this game. We got to win a couple. But with baseball, 162 games, man, you can lose some games. It's okay. So just relax. But I feel like everyone needs content. Everyone needs something to talk about. Everyone needs something to complain about. And that's why when I was parking the car and I heard local radio just freaking out because a couple guys went 0 for 4 in a game, and this is inexcusable, and you can't have a team doing this. Who are you going to put the blame on? Which one of these guys? It was like a 911 alert, getting everyone first. And everyone calls in complaining about AJ Hinch because he made this move or he didn't do that, and get so-and-so out of there. They don't even belong in that lineup anymore, and we got to trade for something. I just relax. That negative push, it just drives me crazy. We don't need to be like that. We need to enjoy this. There's 162 of these games. You can lose 70 of them and still be a great team. You can lose 70 of them and you can still be in first place. 90 wins gets you first place. And so this team is just so much fun to watch. So many great stories. We've got Tarik Skubal just dominating again. Second year in a row that he's dominating. With this Casey Mize making such a comeback. He was, a first pick in the draft, and he dealt with injuries and things. Every year we kind of thought this is going to be the year, and then, it doesn't really happen. And last year we thought it would be it, and he kind of got banged up a little bit, turned into a bit of a bullpen bulk guy, wasn't even on the roster at the end of the season or on the playoff roster. And it's been so awesome to see him come back, get a little bit dinged up, and then push right through that, having quality start after quality start. So that's been a great story to see as well. Gleyber Torres has just been phenomenal. Picking him from the Yankees was a great move by Scott Harris. He's been such a great addition to that team. He's really kind of starting to play like pre-pandemic Gleyber. Like Green's phenomenal. He has a real chance at a 300 season with 40 home runs, 100 RBIs. That's not an uncommon thing anymore. 300 batting averages aren't even that common. Torque's resurgence has been great. Javi's resurgence has been great. Dylan Dingler really fallen into that catching position. I felt bad for Jake when Raj got hurt there. I thought, oof. I remember I was saying to someone, I think I was watching the Dodgers, that first game against the Dodgers during what seemed like a 5-hour pregame parade for the Dodgers. But I said, I got a feeling that if Dingler gets hit, and it might get to where he gets more than half the games. And it might be a bit of a split, but it's not going to be Jake gets 4 games, Dylan gets 1. It's going to get closer to 3-2 or maybe 3-2 the other way. And then Raj gets hurt. Dingler is just phenomenal. You got a name like Dingler and you're hitting home runs. How can you say no to that? And he just becomes great. So it's, I felt bad for Raj, but he's been an ultimate team guy. When he comes back, he's supporting. He's still having a great time. Dylan Dingler just been great. Z-Mac, so much fun to watch. That's probably the best thing. And maybe I'll talk more about Alex Bregman in a later episode now that rumors are swirling about him again. But the best thing about not getting him might be Zach McKinstry, because he fell into that third base spot a little bit, and we realized you can put him anywhere. He's just going to rake. He's going to hit. I'll hit left-handed pitching, like right-handed pitching. Probably going to lead the league in triples by the time the season's over. So that's been so much fun to watch as well. So it's just been a lot of fun to watch how these guys shake out. So I had a couple other quick thoughts here. Let me pull up my stats here. The Tigers. So we are 25, sorry, they were 50 and 31 at the halfway point. And a couple other seasons I want to point out. So 50 and 31. Last year, we were 37 and 44. So obviously so much better at the halfway point this year than last year. Last year, we go on that run, make the playoffs, win a series. Exciting year. So we're better than that. 2013, Tigers go to the World Series, right? They were 47 and 34 that year at the halfway point. We're better this year than we were that year. And they were a great team that year, and everyone knew they were a great team. 2006, 47 and 34 at the halfway point, which kind of surprised me, because part of me remembers that team is almost being a bit of a surprise at the end. But they were still great all year long. Jimmy Leland was just on fire that year. And so we're all these like recent great Tigers teams better at the halfway points than they've been before. We're also on pace for 100 games, right? So if you're 50 and 31 at the halfway point, simply double the two numbers, 162. 162 games, we win 100, lose 62. That's what we're on pace to do. How often have the Tigers won 100 games? 5 times. 1915, they won 100 games. 34, they won 101. 61, they won 101. Then 1968, they won 103. 1984, they won 104. And those last 2 years, I know are going to be real special years to Tigers fans. So we're on pace to win 100 games for only the 6th time ever, a shot to become potentially the winningest Tigers team of all time. But yet, local media finds reason to be negative. National media doesn't take us seriously. Fans are getting bent out of shape because they lose a game and they're scoffing and they're stomping. Doesn't make sense. At 50 and 31, we could play one game under 500 for the rest of the year and still finish with 90 wins. 90 wins is going to win the American League Central. So short of some kind of catastrophic event, this team's winning the American League Central. So we're going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. So my point is this. To the local fans, local media, enjoy this. This is awesome. It's okay to have a loss here and there. It's going to happen. This team is real. It's okay to be proud of this team. Go down to the ballpark, enjoy it. Turn on the TV, enjoy it. Turn on the radio, enjoy it. Don't freak out if there's a loss. This team is good enough to overcome a loss. And to the national media that are doubting this team is real. You know Tarik Skubal's real. You're starting to know Riley Green's real. You've heard of Javi Baez and Gleyber Torres, but this team's got a lot of guys that can play. Matt Vierling just came back. It's great to have him on the team again. Z-Mac, a guy that not a lot of you know, is great. Torque is hitting bombs again. Kerry Carpenter, haven't even talked about him yet. Kerry Bonds. So there's a lot of great players in this team, and I think as we keep going, the national media is going to know. They're not the little engine that could. That's not the kind of train they are. This team's a freight train, and they're driving straight towards October, and they're the real deal. All right, so that's strike one, everyone. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, we'll hit strike two, the Detroit Pistons. Welcome back, everyone, to the Motor City Sports Podcast, your place for positive takes on Detroit sports. I'm your host, Lee Mojerak, and we just finished up strike one on the Detroit Tigers. So we're going to jump into strike two right now. Strike one's probably always going to be a little bit longer, but strike two, we're going to talk about the Detroit Pistons. It's been a day. And so I feel the bummer of me doing this on a Sunday and releasing it on a Thursday, a lot's going to shake out in the next few days. So by the time you're listening to this, I might sound like a crazy person. I apologize for that. When I was leaving the house this morning to come record this, I had full intentions on talking about the Pistons. Draft was last week. Chaz Lanier, what do we think their plans are drafting Chaz? What are we looking forward to with the Pistons? But then Shams drops this huge bomb about Malik Beasley. And so I'm going to kind of pull it up right here. So according to Shams, federal authorities are investigating Malik Beasley on allegations of gambling related to NBA games and prop bets. This isn't good, man. I hope it's a lot of smoke and no fire, but this stuff doesn't seem to leak out unless there's something going on, right? And I read Shams' article online. It's kind of weird. It's a different situation. When there were allegations in the past, it was stuff like, someone, they're over under on, rebounds was 4, and then the person pulls himself out of the game after 1 rebound or something crazy like that. So they were clearly kind of fixing things. But the one example that Shams gave in the article was a game in which a lot of action came in on Malik Beasley's under, and he hit the over. So I'm not sure what they're saying he's doing or what his involvement is in this. But we're gonna find out, and it's gonna be a real bummer. And so last week when they drafted Chaz, my thought all along it was because they weren't sure on what would happen with Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., both as free agents. And I know that Langdon said that them being free agents and them possibly not returning had nothing to do with him drafting Chaz and whatever GM speak that these executives use. I think that's why, right? Like, we want Malik Beasley back. We want Tim Hardaway Jr. back, especially me. I'm a Michigan guy. I loved having Tim Hardaway Jr. on the team. Malik Beasley had so much energy, so much fun, him coming off, him hitting a 3, doing a little shimmy, him getting hot, hitting a bunch of them in a row. Give a lot of energy to this team. Seems to be the way the Pistons want to play. They want K to be real ball dominant, but have shooters that he can trust to hit that big shot. Tobias can hit him. Like, they got a lot of guys that can hit these shots. So it made sense to me that they were going to go out and get another shooter in case we couldn't re-sign Malik, couldn't re-sign Tim. So the Malik, it'll shake out. Right now, there's not a lot of details. Not much on Tim Hardaway Jr., although he was in town over the weekend. I saw for the Rocket Classic, the big golf tournament here in Detroit. I saw he was there getting interviewed by local sports reporters. So he's still keeping his ties to the area. Hopefully, he still plans on returning. But as far as Chaz, what they got in him, they got an 18-4 kind of guy, an assist and a steal a game each. But, he's a good asset. Sharpshooter, that's what the Pistons want to do, like we said earlier. We want to have that emergency valve in case Malik or Tim aren't there. But overall, I think it's going to be a fun year. We got a lot of time before they start, rolling out the balls for the NBA season. I know we're going to have rookie ball here start soon, or summer league, and that'll kind of push through the summer here, and then we'll get camps back together in the fall. We got some time, but I was excited all year hoping to see Jaden Ivey get back because I want to see the chance of them having a real nice big 3 with Cade and Jalen and Jaden, not once he's healthy. And you get those 3 really playing the way they are. It seems like, Jalen's a double-double guy, I feel like, every night. Cade's essentially a double-double guy as well, possible triple-double guy. So you add Jaden Ivey into that mix now healthy, getting Tobias Harris back, having our Sar Thompson, just the way he plays, so great on defense, flying all over the place, so athletic, such a motor. You get guys coming off the bench, Isaiah Stewart, really losing him at the playoffs last year obviously hurt a lot. So getting him back again next year. This team, I think, is going to be really good. They're on the climb. They're a lot like the Tigers were last year, like the Lions were those first couple years or the Lions were with MCDC there, how they were really kind of coming around. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun talking about them. I'm excited to see what happens. I know Dennis Schroeder seems to be on the outs, likely not coming back. Maybe that gives Ron Holland a chance to fit in there, play a little bit more. Such a young guy. He's going to get better and better as it goes on. So much growth opportunity in this team. Personally, I'm really hoping they don't try to do the big splash and get one of these big name. I'm glad they left Kevin Durant alone. I thought it was a talk some were having. There's the Giannis talk. I kind of want to see these guys build. I want to see how good these guys can grow together and see if we can do it that way, as opposed to just trying to make a big splash and then potentially blowing up in our face. So I'm going to have a lot of fun talking about the Pistons moving forward. My first sports memory is actually being a kid and the Bad Boys winning the championship. I had the posters up in my room the 2 years. And at that time, Tigers weren't great. Lions weren't great. So as a young 6-year-old kid, having the Pistons win championships was fun to have those posters up. And then the going to work Pistons in 04, but leading up to 04, the 02-03 season, 03-04 season, even the 04-05 season, I was in college. I was driving to the Palace for games. I didn't miss a game. I put my working class schedule around games so I could watch them. Loved watching those guys. So it's been fun to have the Pistons kind of come back and be something that's a lot of fun to watch again. And I'm looking forward to watching that as they move through. I think they're going to keep getting better, like I said, just like the Tigers have, just like the Lions have. And not talking about the Red Wings today, but I think the Red Wings are coming as well. I think Stevie Y is going to get that figured out. We're going to have 4 great sports teams to watch here in Detroit moving forward. So that's going to bring strike 2 to a close on the Detroit Pistons. We'll take another quick break here. On the other side, we're going to hit strike 3, and that's going to be a little bit off the beaten path, off the board. We're talking about the Nashville Caps. Who? Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Motor City Sports Podcast. I am your host, Lee Mosierak, and we are on to Strike 3 now. Strike 3, the Nashville Cats. Who are the Nashville Cats? Well, the Nashville Cats are from the Arena Football 1 League. So if you're not familiar with the Arena Football 1 League, it was created after the Arena Football League ceased to exist, essentially. So a bunch of the teams came over from the Arena League, and they kind of created this league here. And it was made up of the Albany Firebirds, the Nashville Cats, Southwest Kansas Storm, the Salina Liberty, the Billings Outlaws, the Oregon Lightning, the Corpus Christi Tritons, and the Washington Wolfpack. So if you didn't catch any of the games, you missed out. I'll admit I didn't watch a ton of the games throughout the year, but the games that I did catch, so exciting. High energy, high scoring, lots of stuff going on, lots of hitting up against the wall. It was fun stuff to watch. Now, I have to admit, the biggest reason that I was attracted to this league is because of the quarterback of the Nashville Cats, Tyler Kulka. And so I have a special personal connection with Tyler Kulka. In my previous life, I was a teacher, and I taught Tyler as a young 6th, 7th, and 8th grader. He was in the first class, or the first health class I ever taught, and I later coached him in basketball, had him in physical education classes. Phenomenal young man. You knew he was a phenomenal athlete then, hard worker then. Every morning I'd get into the gym, and Tyler was already there before, so we'd get dropped off early. I'd walk in, and he's just shooting a right-handed layup, shooting a left-handed layup, shooting a right-handed layup, shooting a left-handed layup. He was always working, always trying to get better. And so it was always great coaching him. Great young man, great family. And I believe, the 2015 graduate of Chippewa Valley High School. And I was watching him from afar while he was in high school. I was no longer in the area. I was living down in Florida. And from what I could gather, his high school time on the football field wasn't going the way he thought. I think he kind of thought he was going to be the quarterback. Things didn't quite go the way he wanted. There was a little bit of push and shove there. He didn't get quite the run I think he thought he was going to get, but he didn't give up because he's a hard worker. He knew his worth. He knew his skill, and he had a lot going on after high school. Not only was he going to college, but his church was very important to him. He did mission work. He was gone for a very long time doing a mission, but never forgot about football when he got back. And so he finished up his college football professional. I know he was playing in Japan for a while, which that's a heck of an endeavor. I think a lot of people, if their dream required them moving to the other side of the world, they might find a new dream, but not Tyler. Kept pushing, went and played football over there, and then he comes back and he gets picked up in this Arena Football League, or the AF1, but it's Arena Football, and he's playing for the Nashville Cats. So he had a great season. For the regular season, he threw for 31 touchdowns with only 2 interceptions. In the playoff, they kind of had a Final Four set up. So in the semifinals, he had 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. His team won. So Nashville moves on to the championship game to play the Albany Firebirds, who were undefeated in the regular season. And Tyler had a great game. Threw for 7 touchdowns in the championship game. Had him with a chance to win right at the end. Unfortunately, they couldn't do it. They couldn't pull off the upset, and the Albany Firebirds actually completed their perfect season. But it was fun to watch. It was fun to see Tyler out there running on that field, making some of the passes he made were great passes. They were anticipating the receiver making the move. He hit it in a tight spot. It was really cool to watch. Really proud of him. Really excited to see what the future holds for him, because this is not the end of the road for Tyler Kulka. I know him. He's going to keep grinding. If there's a team with an open position at quarterback, he's going to find it. If there's a team with an opportunity for him to compete for a spot in the quarterback room, he's going to find that spot. He's going to compete, and he's going to get a spot in that quarterback room. I really do think he's got a really good shot with the UFL. I think if he gets in a trial or gets a look from one of these teams, I think he's going to turn some heads. So I'm excited to see that next step, to see that growth. I saw him as a middle schooler. I saw him as a high schooler. I didn't get to see him play in college personally, but now seeing him on TV playing professional football, I'm really hoping that keeps going and going and going for him. I'm really looking forward to getting out and catching one of these games with Tyler, if at all possible. I saw the AF1's actually supposed to have a Michigan expansion team next year, so maybe Tyler's playing in the league and that team plays Michigan. Definitely going to go check that out. And I'm also looking forward to hopefully having Tyler on as a guest later on an episode of Motor City Sports Podcast, because I think his story is really impressive. And I think a lot of people would have a really good time listening to Tyler tell that story, because you can't root for a guy more. Great things that come from Tyler Kulka. Nashville Cats, unfortunately, like I said, couldn't pull off that upset, but a great season, nothing to hang their head about, and plenty more good things coming for Tyler Kulka in the future. So that's going to wrap up Strike 3. We just have one segment left to our Mo-Town Lowdown, and today's topic is Tarik Skubal. All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, Detroit. Motor City Sports Podcast here. I am your host, Lee Mosrak, and we've got one segment left. We're almost through our debut episode of the Motor City Sports Podcast. I want to thank all of you for hanging around. I was trying to keep it at 30 minutes. I got a little long-winded with the Tigers in the beginning. I apologize for that. But we're going to talk about Tarik Skubal here in our MoTown Lowdown. So we all know what's happening, right? Free agency's coming. Scott Boras is his agent. It's not looking good. When Juan Soto signed that $765 million contract, I got really sad. Like, man, our owner, we sell pizzas. We can't sign $765 million contracts. How are we going to get guys? The Ohtani deal didn't freak me out as much, two-way player, where they deferred all that money. It was kind of a weird contract, right? So yeah, $700 million seemed crazy, but it didn't make me think we got no chance at signing people. The Juan Soto one made me really nervous. And so what's going to happen with Tarik Skubal? Lately, it's been getting brought up a lot. He's been on a couple of interviews. They're asking him a lot of questions about it. He's having to answer all kinds of weird, uncomfortable questions while still going out there and pitching and still being dominant. And I know it's a tough spot for him. I know a lot of people don't want to feel bad for athletes. Like, I think all this money just to play a kid's game and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I can't stand that argument. These people deserve to get paid. If they don't get paid, it's not like suddenly the ticket prices are going to be cheaper. If these athletes aren't paid these huge contracts, their owners are just going to keep the money and buy a yacht. I don't know. So I don't get that discouraged or upset because Mahomes gets a big contract or because Ohtani gets a big contract. A lot of these players give back to communities. They start foundations. They start charities. They're not just blowing this money on a bunch of nonsense. So I don't have a huge problem with them getting a big contract. It does just stress me out or bum me out to think, what if that means we can't get our guys? So what's it going to take to sign Skubal? I don't think the Ohtani contract is really a benchmark. I don't think the Soto contract is a benchmark. I wouldn't be surprised if Scott Boras tried using them as benchmarks, but they don't make any sense. So the Yamamoto one is interesting. So the Dodgers signed him 12 years, $325 million. Skubal's going to blow that out of the water. Like, especially if he keeps throwing the way he's throwing right now. Triple Crown, Cy Young last year. In some ways, you could say he's better this year. He's not getting any cheaper. I think I saw someone somewhere estimate it's going to be 400 and something, maybe low 400s. And if that's the case, I say sign it. If we can get that done, if he'll take it. But I don't see Boras taking anything now. He's going to push this off. He's going to get top dollar. He's not going to want Tarik taking any kind of hometown discount. I know a little bit of that scares us Tiger fans because we saw this happen a little bit with Miggy. We really wanted them to re-sign Miguel Cabrera, and when they re-signed that huge contract, I think we all knew we had a few years of solid Miggy left, and then after that, there were going to be some years where we were still paying, but we weren't going to be able to get the performance. Not just the nature of the beast. I remember Dombrowski saying at the time, like, yeah, I would have loved to have gotten Miguel Cabrera for half as much money, but that wasn't an option. Like, if we wanted Miguel Cabrera, this is what it cost, and that's how I feel about Tarik Skubal. If we want Tarik Skubal, this is what it costs. And I think, he deserves the money. Like, think about what this guy was making a couple years ago. So yeah, before he was the Cy Young guy, but in his pre-arbitration era, he was making less than $1 million a year, like $765,000 a year, and was really the best pitcher on the team at the time. And then finally last year, he gets a big money, right? To avoid arbitration, he signed a $2.65 million, which at the time was a huge pay raise for him. He goes out and wins the Cy Young, Triple Crown, just filthy the whole year for $2.5 million, which in professional baseball, that's peanuts. And then this year they agreed to another contract to avoid arbitration. A little over $10 million was the number. Okay, another big price bump for him. Still peanuts compared to what he's going to end up getting paid. So now we got 1 year left of team control. I got a fly buzzing around me here. We have 1 year left of team control. I hope that doesn't get too nasty in the offseason. Another try to 1 year deal to avoid arbitration again. And then we'll see what happens. Then it's going to be total free agency, and they've got to find a way to make this work. If you get these guys and you can't keep, why do we have a team? I look at this with the Pirates and Paul Skeens, and there's talk of them trading Paul Skeens this year because they already know they're not going to lock him up. Why do you have a team? You hit on a 1-1. He's everything you could hope he'd be, and now you just, we can't afford him. What? They don't have a team. So thankfully that's not the situation with the Tigers. They found Skubal. Even more, you found him later in the draft. You hit on that. Let's take advantage of that. And so that's why there was talk last year about potentially trading him. And I will never stop believing that they had all intentions on trading him and just couldn't get the right offer. And think how different everything is if they trade Tarik Skubal last year at the deadline. And I'm so thankful that didn't happen. But it's like you've got this guy on your team. Do you want to get better? Do you want to be a good team? Well, having a guy who every fifth game, or I guess sixth day now, the way these rotations work, but having a guy once a week goes out there as a stopper, you know is going to give you a chance to win the game, going to give you a shot to end a losing streak. Why would you give this up? This is what you want on your team. So Cy Young last year might be better this year. Sarah Langs had a couple of great stats I saw online this week, and I wanted to kind of saw this year. One, she put out today that he is one of 5 players in history with 120 or more strikeouts with fewer than 15 walks in the first 16 starts. One of only 5 players in history to do that. That's pretty good. Earlier in the year when he had that ridiculous stretch, that 11-game stretch where he had 95 strikeouts and only 3 walks, he was the only pitcher in the history of baseball to ever do that. That's the kind of pitcher we're dealing with. So, yeah, he's not going to come for $200 million. He's not going to come for $300 million. They're going to need to pay him. But watching Tarik Skubal in another uniform would be disheartening to this franchise. I don't want talks of trading him before he walks for nothing. We don't let him walk for nothing. We re-signed Tarik Skubal. You figure it out. He's the best pitcher in baseball. He's the most important player on this team. We need to see him long term. And maybe 8 years from now, it becomes a Justin Verlander situation and he goes somewhere else, fine. But right now, while he's the best pitcher in baseball, we do not let him walk. So we need to figure that out. We need to lock it up. It's not going to be cheap, but we need to figure it out. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the first episode of the Motor City Sports Podcast. Again, I'm sorry, it ran a little long. We're at about 40 minutes here. I'm trying to keep them to 30 minutes. I will do a better job of plotting this out next time, but we're going to be here every Thursday and every Monday. Moving forward, hopefully, we'll have an interview mixed in here as well, once a week, once every other week. We're still getting the format going, but like I said in the beginning, I wanted to start. I want this podcast to be, I want it to be a positive thing. So if you've liked what you've seen, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends, like it, leave comments. Find me on Instagram, Motor City Sports Podcast. Find us on X/Twitter, Motor City, or actually we're MoTown Sports Pod, I believe, on there. It was too many characters to fit it all in there. But Instagram, Motor City Sports Podcast. Find the YouTube channel, Motor City Sports Podcast. We're going to have a lot of fun. So hope you guys are all having a great week. Have a great 4th of July. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the holiday. We will see you next time for the next Motor City Sports Podcast. Thanks for watching.